Hi, and welcome to the Great Women in Compliance podcast. Today, the whole gang is here. We're very excited to wrap up the year and have a good holiday, fantastic discussion. We've now ended our first full year with this team of Great Women in Compliance. And having been both generations, I cannot say how thrilled I am from where we have started to where we've come. And I wanted to thank all three of the people on this call today, starting with Hema. Hema, thank you for joining as a co-host, for bringing in a whole new way of thinking about things and different guests and just being a really great support moving this forward. Farah, you're a sponsor, you're a friend. Thank you for that. Thank you for also bringing out some of the different creative aspects and helping us move those things to the next level. And as we continue to do that, thank you so much. I'm just so honored to be working with you. And last but never the least is as I learned from my first episode ever with Ellen Hunt, my advocate, my friend, my mentor, my sponsor, all of those things. Thank you for sharing your work and wit and wisdom with us and for bringing this to this entire community. We are all better for you and we are better for all three of you. So I just wanted to commemorate that as we have a virtual toast at the beginning and then again at the end. So thank you all for that. And now I figured we'd just talk a little bit. We'll start with some ethics and compliance things and then go on to our true holiday cheer. With that, let's start with a question about what do you think, Hemel, we'll start with you, has been the most interesting trend and development over the past year in ethics and compliance in your view?
Well, Lisa, look, first, thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I'm very grateful for the three of you too. So very happy to be here, part of this gang. So trends, most interesting trends. One of my favorite things to talk about is the compliance customer experience. And I've seen so many things this year where people have been putting the employees that we serve at front and center. And so I'm really excited to see how AI is being leveraged to do that. And I'm really looking forward to what we can see in 2025 when it comes to making sure we're thinking of compliance as a service. So that's my favorite thing to talk about this year and really happy to see the developments there.
And how about you?
Yeah, and on that theme, I think how AI is going to enhance our ability to really get into retaliation, and really be able to do a better job at investigations. I have been fixated on procedural justice and how compliance professionals can really do a better job in explaining and going through the journey of what it takes to speak up and the journey of what happens after an investigation report has been written. And I think there's going to be just tons of enhancements in that. And thinking about how we know that when one toxic person is in the workplace, it affects us all. And peer to peer retaliation, which I think is on the rise. Those are the topics I've been fixated on in 2024, and I think will continue to be in 2025.
Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, great question. And thank you too for the intro and for being our fearless leader, Lisa. We so appreciate you every day. Um, so trends that I've noticed when you lob a question at me on the Great Women in Compliance podcast, I always sort of veer to what does this mean for marketing? I look at it from my perspective. And I would say that I'm seeing a trend in how compliance officers are getting their information and how they're communicating with one another. And really, the thing that kind of kicked that off at the beginning of this year was the loss of that FCPA blog. The fact that they shuttered, that they have been discontinued and shut down. That really is a loss. That was one of the last few independent media outlets talking to and about and for compliance officers. And I'm sorry to see that go. I know that the readers were, and many of the contributors, some of who have found their way over to CCI and presumably other outlets as well. But I think it just points to a bigger trend in our culture of traditional media shutting down or morphing, changing, evolving. And it's cause for concern. You want to have those independent voices out there, those platforms that give people who speak with courage about the issues of the day. You want those places where that public discourse can take place, and it's one less. But that's just something that I'm watching as a media person. I just keep my eye on that. But that's a trend I've noticed this year.
Yeah, and I guess I would probably go along and talk a lot about the aspects of AI that we use for the reasons that you all have mentioned, but also the way in which we can be using that to build and go to a next level within our cultures and what is appropriate and the ethics. I think the ethics of AI, whether it's how are we getting questions answered for people, this whole idea of bias, non bias for our organizations, and not knowing what to do with it a little bit is really something that's incredibly interesting to me. I'm interested in what the DOJ said about it, but I'm also interested to see what's going to happen over the next year with that, which is, I think, a good segue to the next thing I wanted to ask the group. Starting with you, Ellen, what is at the top of your mind as you're planning for 2025?
Now, it's really thinking about how can you be more effective and more efficient, which maybe 2025 isn't different than any other year, except that I do think we have new tools, new methods, and new ways of thinking that we haven't had in the past. And I think taking some time to think about your strategy. Sometimes we are very reactive instead of proactive. And I think strong ethical cultures are really going to be what differentiates companies that succeed and those that don't. And this all ties together because the more efficient and effective you are at running your compliance program, more you are enhancing and building and cultivating an ethical culture.
Okay, great. How about you, Sarah? I'm going to go to you next.
Thank you. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to in the coming year is a shift in the culture actually at CCI. It's as good a time as any to share some of our plans. And this kind of harks back to what I was talking to before about changes in media. We have traditionally been somewhat vendor led in our coverage, publishing a great deal of contributed content from vendors, and we are not doing that anymore. We have absolutely brought that to a close, and we're kicking off the beginning of the new year, and we will only be publishing compliance consultants, in-house professionals, that sort of thing. That if you're a vendor and you're not an obvious subject matter expert, then your content needs to be sponsored and it'll be labeled as such. We feel very strongly about not blurring the lines between advertising and editorial. We think that it is just important to look at who's doing the talking as what is being said. So it's a big change for us and we're here for it. We're excited and can't wait to see the results and to share those with you at the beginning of the year.
And Sarah, listening to you, you're filling the gap a bit where we may have some of that absence from your first question.
Yeah, because when I look at who we are and what we do and how we do it, we're really the only ones who are still truly independent and can do that. Not being owned by a corporation, we can say what we want, we can do what we want, and it's time to just lean into that. Let's spice it up a little bit.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Hooray.
Hooray. Hold on your hat.
Mm-hmm. Hema, what about you?
Before I go on to mine, Sarah, look, I love that you're living your values there as well. I mean, I think it's really good that you're looking for those lines and trying to make sure you toe the ethical lines in everything you do, as well as everything you write and publish. So really love that integrity and that approach there and your vision for that. I'm all for it and bring on the spice for 2025. Speaking of corporations and the values, look, it's not a fun topic, but top of mind for me is what we saw, the recent assassination of a CEO on the streets of New York for an investor conference and what that may or may not mean for our compliance functions. Compliance has always had a perceptions issue anyway, right? We've always worked really hard to make sure that people believe in what we're doing and come along with us. And I do think we're going to have some interesting dialogue and narrative about the ethics of corporations and the ethics at the top and the tone at the top and what we're asking our employees at various levels to subscribe to. So in interesting times, no conclusions there, but certainly lots of questions for me. And I think as everything, can be depressing, but also an opportunity for us as compliance professionals and leaders to step into that space and really level set on what we mean by do the right thing and ethical behavior, both inside for our employees, but also for our external customers and other stakeholders. So interesting times. Again, hold on to your hats. I think we should watch this space very carefully, but I'm looking wistfully and very thoughtfully about what's going to be coming next, but also excited about the opportunities where we can lean into. Your point, Sarah. Leaning in is probably going to be my phrase of the year for 2025. So bring it up.
And coming along with that, And we have a new administration coming in the United States, which may have a different approach to some of the things that we've seen over the last several years and what are they focusing on. At the same time, we have states that may take different positions, and that's just the US itself. On the other hand, and I often speak as somebody who works at a dual listed company in the US, and the UK is getting more aggressive on certain things, and there's a whole new failure to prevent fraud. And then you have the EU that's pushing yet another set of objectives and things. So as I think about 2025, it's a bit of how do we make sure that we come up with the commonality to make it ethical decision making or being compliant in a way that is friendly to our organizations so that we don't have everything. This one says this and treating it as almost like a choose your own adventure because it's not. So I've been thinking a lot about how do you take what the common values and goals are and keep moving those forwards in a way for ethics and compliance and in a way people feel comfortable having tough discussions and also moving forward. That's it at mine. So changing that, anybody have a favorite GWIC moment this year? It can be any, you pick. I'll do your favorite. Instead of going last, I'll go first, give you a little time to breathe because I thought about this a bit. One of my favorite moments or things that we've done this year is having these conversations where we do a round table. We have two people who we're working on something similar with kind of different viewpoints. And we had a couple this fall that really just hit home to me how sort of it was a pinch myself moment. Like when Padma, when you and I were talking to Mary Inman about being a whistleblower attorney and how she does that. And she's one of the best in the field. And then Jane Norberg, who's been a law firm person and a regulator. And then you from the SEC and me mostly in-house and law firm. I just love this idea that we can have this exchange of and discussion from such diverse viewpoints, even with what our mission is as GWIC. So I just think that part to me has been incredibly memorable, along with all the opportunities whenever I get to meet people or see people that every time to this day, when somebody tells me about an episode or a person or a thing, that always warms my heart. But the thing that is like evolving in those conversations and being able to do it is huge. So I'll start with that one. And Sarah, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love the roundtables. I love the energy. I think that's a fantastic vehicle for what we're doing. And one of my favorite moments concerns a roundtable as well. It was the first one I participated in, and we were talking about neurodiversity in the workplace. And everybody shared, we all admitted we have a little bit of a neurospicy thing going on. And I got feedback from that on LinkedIn. And it's always so wonderful when you put out something like this, you put it out into the universe to actually hear from your listeners, from your readers. And I had people that reached out and said how much that episode meant to them. They felt seen, and how much the podcast means to them too. And just getting that reinforcement, that's priceless. Definitely a favorite moment.
That's amazing. Hema.
Yeah, look, along that same vein, those roundtables are really just a snapshot of what we do outside the roundtables as a community as well. WIC for me has been a platform to meet more people and have more conversations. So the highlights for me of the year has been what's going on behind the scenes. The fact that we get to see each other in person at these big conferences. I think we've met in Texas for SCCE and DC for Compliance Week. Getting to give you guys actual hugs and continue those conversations with all of these thought leaders in the corridors or in the conferences. But really the overall highlight, Lisa, was you mounting that giant longhorn in Texas. And there are photos which hopefully we can produce.
Once we put them up there, I will have to put the picture up somewhere along when we publicize this as LinkedIn, or you can.
Yes, we'll have to share the picture. But again, why? Because it's not all talk. It's not all talking shop. We have a lot of fun together. We're all humans and we need each other. And I'm really, again, I always say it, but I want to just underline it. So grateful for the community and the camaraderie. You mentioned the mentorship, the sponsorship, the advocacy that we do for each other. And so, yes, that picture of you on the Longhorn is just a symbol of that. We can go out there, we can slay, we can share ideas, but we can also have a bit of fun together. So that was my highlight of the year for sure.
Ellen.
I just have enjoyed every minute of being part of this, whether it's when we're actually taping a session or we're talking about it. Anything that makes me think differently is something that I cherish. And that's what this group and the podcast does. because we're always seeking out people with new ideas and new perspectives. And I love that learning. And so I don't have one specific favorite moment, but I think all of the moments are my favorite.
Okay, that's perfect. I'm about to totally take us as we talked about how we hang out and have fun. I'm going to say I'm going to ask a question, then each one of you gets to is going to throw out just something that you can be compliance. It won't be, because the next thing I've been really wanting to ask this group is, when is it appropriate to start listening to holiday music and or putting up decorations? I mean, people, they don't really get to hear from us on some of the other pressing issues of the day, and that is one. My view, for whatever it's worth, my view is that you can start. I now start I understand there are different ones. I will now do it the week before, the week of or before Thanksgiving. I've not gotten to the other one. The Saturday before Thanksgiving. I used to wait till the day of Thanksgiving when I saw Santa come through on the Macy's Thanksgiving parade.
Yeah.
But given now that they all start coming up on November 1st on the radios, so I'm like the Saturday before that is when I can start. Sarah,
I don't
you
know.
have a strong view on this. So
I don't know. That's like wearing white shoes before Easter. I think that's rushing it a little bit, but maybe it's just me. I have this thing about the holiday season. I'm in the mall. I'm shopping. It's the 11th hour, and that Mannheim Steamroller version of Carol of the Bells comes on. The one I'm talking about. It's so chaotic. It just puts my nervous system into overdrive. It's the worst. I avoid it at all costs. So I like to try to kick the Christmas carols a little bit further down the road. But I have to tell you, and I'm going to put this in show notes, I found the very best Spotify channel. It's called Jazzy Christmas Chill.
Lovely.
It will lower your blood pressure while putting you in the spirit. I recommend it highly, and I really will put it in the show notes.
And before I move to somebody else, I do, as somebody who updates every year, a very bizarre, but yet also, I think, Spotify holiday playlist that is public, but I think only 2 people ever listen. It's called Deck the Halls, Rock the Menorah kind of thing. And I have
I'm going to share it.
oh yeah. That the show notes to this may be epic, but yes. I mean, we've got the Grinch with Tyler, the Creator, everything from that to the Beach Boys, which, fun
Right.
fact, growing up, I as a Jewish kid growing up, I knew 3 things for sure about Christmas. One was that you go to the movies. 2 was that you have Chinese food. And the third was that you listen to the Beach Boys Christmas album, which was a surprise when I talked to other kids, because their dad apparently didn't always play it. All right.
I won't surprise you at all that I am pro decorations early and music all year round. Sarah, I will stop short of calling you the Christmas Grinch. I will.
Please.
The holiday Grinch. But I take my cue from retail. So Halloween's over, we start Christmas. Christmas is over, we start Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is over, we start Easter, and so forth. And yes, I've got 2 little ones, 2 little girls who are delightful, and they delight in all of these things. And so my eldest daughter, Jasmine, has been singing the 12 Days of Christmas for over 100 days. She loves those songs. My Spotify is on all year round, so I'm definitely pro celebrate as much as you can. We did Diwali just before Halloween and got all the lights on in the house for Hindu New Year. We'll go ahead and celebrate anything we can. And with the schools, obviously, they also encourage us to celebrate all the holidays. So we get to observe whatever the kids are observing at school, we try to replicate at home. So 100% pro holiday celebrations. Again, no surprises for me.
Ellen, which one is going to be, what about you? Where do you fall on this critical issue?
Yeah, so I think it's whenever the spirit and the joy hits you. And I think it can be different in different years. You can wear those white shoes whenever you want, and you can put up whatever decorations wherever you want and do what you want. I really never take my tree down before Three Kings. And Three Kings is an important celebration for my family. Our season maybe goes a little longer than others. I think sometimes we don't have to have rules about this stuff. We can do what we want, when we want, because we want. So I just hope that everybody has the most joyful, peaceful, and restful holiday season possible.
That is that's the best answer you could possibly have. And I'm very impressed that as a compliance person, you're the only one of us who didn't already have something in the pre-thing. I mean, or Christmas thing. All right, Emma, what is your pressing question of the time here?
Well, my pressing question is, where is that elf on the shelf going to be tomorrow that's behind you?
Actually, it's a Snoop on the stoop.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my goodness. Sleep on the stoop. Yeah. Say no more.
Snoop on the stoop. Yeah, that was exactly where I was planning to go on this one. Uh, a friend of mine gave it to me as a gift, given there's also a Snoop song to go back to this Spotify. You may not know, he also has holiday music. So we've got some hip hop there too.
I love it.
All right. Someone else is up next with their pressing question for the podcast about the holidays.
I
Sarah.
wonder if anyone else is having a gingerbread man and a glass of milk for lunch, like I am.
No.
I am now.
And
wish.
last night, they're delicious.
Inspired.
Alan.
Harry, you need to decorate that. I know our listeners can't
I
see.
do. I
I'm
do.
the gingerbread person. So yes,
I'll make the frosting tonight.
there we go.
This is the first year that I'm not making any cookies. I used, I make 12 different kinds of cookies, send dozens and dozens to friends and family. And I'm not doing it this year because nobody wants all that sugar anymore. I don't know. We'll see if anybody asks for them, but I'm not making any cookies this year.
Take time to take a break, have a little rest from that. Then you said earlier that you'd feel differently in different years about when to start the music, and same with how you show up.
Yep.
Good. Your spirit must need a rest from the oven.
Yeah. What about, do you have any specific kind of tradition that's unique? You had mentioned about Three Kings that's unique to you and your family celebration during the holidays. I think I've shared mine about listening to the Beach Boys Christmas album. That's one of ours. But is there anything you've just done every year that becomes part of your family? Or for Hema, with you, with your young kids, what are you all sort of bringing in that might be new or different or unique to you?
Yes, as you all know, I'm British, so I try to bring all the British things with me to Christmas time. I tend to do a quick stop at World Foods or World Market that sells all the British candy that I remember having when I was a child. Christmas crackers. Do you all know what Christmas crackers are?
Yeah.
They tend to be in the stores now, but that's very British thing. We'd have them on our dinner tables. Every place setting would have a Christmas cracker, mince pies, Christmas pudding, all the things that you don't get to see here during the year that we get to indulge in. And then I am mindful of all of the sugar, but it is the one time of the year where we will have the giant tin of Rose's Cadbury chocolates and the Quality Street chocolates and all the sugar. So yeah, not great for the health, but certainly good for the nostalgia. And yeah, my children do all the things. They have the stocking from the fireplace. They open a little gift on Christmas Eve and they leave carrots and mince pie and sherry for Santa and Mrs. Claus. So I did get one question about whether or not Santa Claus is real this year from one of the children. I managed to explain to them that quite possibly was. And maybe the Santas aren't always the actual Santa, but they are real. So we're still in that stage of holiday celebrations. It's wonderful.
That's a magical stage. You want that to last as long as you can. Having your children at home this young still is a precious thing. I'm glad you have that.
Yeah. Staying young is important. I think that's probably why I still love the holidays too.
Ellen, anything special or particular?
Christmas Day is hanging out in your pajamas, eating breakfast all day long, sitting in front of the fireplace, reading a good book, taking a nap. It's just doing all the things you want to do when you want to do them. We celebrate and exchange gifts on Christmas Eve. So Christmas Day is you just get to go do what you want, play with your toys or read your book or take a nap or whatever it is. And it's just being together. That's what I cherish about any of the holidays is the chance to be with family and friends.
Ellen, you and I are completely aligned. We have the same Christmas Day, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Pajamas all day long and just hors d'oeuvres and snacky snacks. I don't do a big meal. We just enjoy the rest and enjoy one another.
Yeah. It is a great time to be with family. I also love the fact that for the days before and after it, you really don't know what day it is, what time it is, because it's so
That's
dark.
the sugar. That's the sugar.
Well, work, you're like, it could be Tuesday, it could be Saturday. When is New Year's and when am I coming back? It's even if you are in work, and I know some people are, but it just feels different somehow. So anyway, I think with that, I don't have any more important breaking news for the rest of the year, but we are off on 2 weeks of a break before we come back with a very exciting 2025. And Hema, I'll have you close it out at the end of your first extravaganza.
Yes, it has been an extravaganza. I'm so thrilled to have been part of this wonderful group for I think a year, if not longer now. So we hit our 250th episode a couple of weeks ago. Looking forward to seeing many more episodes, roundtables, one-on-one interviews, and much more next year. Again, I wanted to say a massive thank you to you, Lisa, for embracing me as part of this community, but also being such a wonderful friend and mentor and guide. I have so much fun with you doing this. And again, as I said earlier, behind the scenes is just as much fun as what we actually publish. So grateful to you for everything you've done for me personally and for this community. Sarah, gosh, where do I begin? You've been such a champion this year. I've been so thrilled to work on this podcast with you, to develop the new podcast with you. And again, I really learned so much from you about this space, the media space, and what we can all do to contribute there. So thrilled to hear about your vision for next year and very excited to see what you come up with and what your contributors develop for us. And again, last but not least, Ellen, it's only because you're fourth on my screen that you come last again. You again have been such a glorious mentor for me. You've always given me guidance when I needed it. I've always felt like a really safe space with you. And I feel like your network has become my network and my family. So again, very grateful to you. I always hear people talking about how you've helped them. And I know intimately what that means and how you show up in the world for the rest of us. So grateful to you for being here. And to our listeners, really, just one last piece of thanks. We couldn't be what we are without you. We are so grateful for the support, the number of you that tune in each week, the number of you that post about what you've thought about our episodes. And then again, finally, our guests. The guests are just the magic that we bring. And we're just so grateful to all of you that stepped up. Some of you have come to us to do your first ever public speaking or first ever podcast. And I've had so many of you come back to me and reflect on how grateful you are for that opportunity. And we're just more grateful that you could do it with us. With that, buckets of thanks for everyone. We wish you the best for the holiday season. And we can't wait to see you in the new year, bright and brilliant and healthy. See you soon.